As Europe faces one of its most significant challenges in modern history, the debate over mass immigration, particularly from Muslim-majority countries, has ignited fierce controversy. Poland, a nation known for its deep-rooted cultural identity, has taken a firm stance against the European Union's push for open borders and multiculturalism. But what's really driving this resistance? Is it about protecting national security, preserving tradition, or something more? In this video, we'll explore why Poland refuses to accept Muslim refugees, the historical and cultural reasons behind it, and what this means for Europe's future. In recent years, Europe has faced a seismic shift in its approach to immigration, sparking deep divisions across the continent. The European Union, once a strong proponent of open borders and multicultural ideals, now grapples with the consequences of mass migration, particularly from Muslim-majority countries in the Middle East and North Africa. This wave of immigration, intensified by the 2015 migrant crisis, has tested the unity and values of many European nations. The EU's response, a policy of dispersing refugees and migrants among its member states, was designed to ease the burden on frontline countries like Italy and Greece. However, the decision quickly sparked tensions, especially in nations less inclined to accept these newcomers. For many, it wasn't just the logistics of resettling refugees, but a question of cultural identity, national security, and the very fabric of their societies. Countries like Germany and Sweden initially embraced large numbers of migrants, seeing the move as both a humanitarian obligation and an economic opportunity. But not all European nations were eager to follow suit. This rift became starkly evident as Central and Eastern European nations, including Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic, openly resisted the EU's migrant quota system. Poland, in particular, emerged as a strong voice of opposition. The Polish government framed the issue as one of sovereignty, cultural preservation, and security, raising concerns about the potential for social unrest, terrorism, and the dilution of national identity. As the debate raged on, the European immigration challenge highlighted a growing fracture within the Union. Countries once united under the banner of shared values now found themselves at odds over one of the most pressing issues of the modern age: how to integrate, or resist, mass immigration in a multicultural Europe. Poland's hardline stance on immigration, particularly from Muslim-majority countries, has positioned the country as a major outlier within the European Union. Unlike Western European nations that have embraced large numbers of migrants, Poland has taken a firm, unapologetic stand against the influx. But what's really behind Poland's refusal to accept Muslim refugees? At the heart of Poland's position is a deep commitment to safeguarding its Catholic and Slavic heritage. The country's leaders argue that mass immigration from predominantly Muslim countries poses a threat to Poland's cultural fabric and identity. This sentiment has found strong support among the Polish population, with many fearing that an influx of migrants could lead to social unrest and even radicalization, as has been seen in parts of France, Germany, and Sweden. For Poles, these are not abstract concerns. They feel like existential threats to their way of life. Poland's ruling right-wing Law and Justice Party, PiS, has been particularly vocal in its opposition to Muslim immigration. They argue that Poland, a nation with a rich Catholic tradition, must prioritize the protection of its cultural and religious values over the demands of European multiculturalism. The memory of historical invasions, most notably by the Ottoman Empire and later the Soviet Union, still looms large in Polish consciousness, fueling a strong desire to defend the nation from outside influences. For Poland, this isn't just about border control or preventing terrorism. It's about preserving the essence of what it means to be Polish in an increasingly globalized world. While critics accuse the country of xenophobia and isolationism, Poland sees itself as defending European civilization from the perceived cultural shifts brought by mass Muslim immigration. Poland's concerns about immigration aren't isolated. They reflect a broader debate across Europe about the successes and failures of multiculturalism. As the country pushes back against the European Union's pro-immigration policies, it points to the struggles faced by other Western nations. But what exactly has gone wrong with multiculturalism in countries like France, Germany, and the UK? In many Western European nations, the ideal of multiculturalism, where diverse ethnic and religious groups coexist harmoniously, has faced significant challenges. The 2015 migrant crisis brought millions of refugees and migrants, many from Muslim-majority countries, into Europe. Countries like Germany and Sweden welcomed them, hoping to integrate these newcomers into their societies. However, integration has proven far more difficult than expected. Over the years, these countries have witnessed increasing social unrest, rising crime rates, and incidents of radicalization. France, in particular, has seen violent clashes between migrants and law enforcement, often in neighborhoods where integration has failed. Germany has grappled with the rise of far-right movements in response to immigration policies. For many in Poland, these struggles are seen as evidence that multiculturalism is failing to preserve social cohesion and national identity. Poland's leadership points to these examples as warnings of what could happen if large-scale Muslim immigration is allowed within its borders. As they resist this trend, Poland presents itself as defending not only its own culture but also the very fabric of Europe. Poland's stance on immigration has turned it into one of the most polarizing figures within the European Union. As Western European nations like Germany, France, and Sweden embrace more liberal immigration policies, Poland, alongside other Central and Eastern European countries, has become a vocal opponent, particularly against the EU's migrant quota system. This divide has exposed a growing rift within the Union over the future of immigration and cultural identity in Europe. At the heart of the debate is Poland's rejection of what it sees as an imposition of values that conflict with its own national priorities. By refusing to accept Muslim refugees, Poland argues it is defending its sovereignty, cultural identity, and the safety of its citizens. This approach has garnered support from other members of the Visegrad Group, Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic, forming a bloc that advocates for stricter border controls and national sovereignty over EU-mandated quotas. While Poland's refusal to comply with EU directives has drawn criticism from Western Europe and the European Court of Justice, it has also sparked debates about the limits of EU authority. Some see Poland as a champion of European civilization, standing against the perceived threat of Islamization. Others accuse it of xenophobia and undermining the EU's foundational values of solidarity and human rights. The country has found itself at odds with not just its Western European counterparts but also with various human rights organizations. The conversation has now shifted beyond cultural preservation and national security, raising critical questions about the values that underpin the European Union itself. Is Poland's resistance to Muslim immigration a necessary defense of sovereignty? Or does it betray the EU's principles of solidarity and human rights? Poland's refusal to accept Muslim refugees has drawn harsh criticism from human rights groups, liberal politicians, and EU officials who argue that the country's policies violate basic humanitarian principles. Critics contend that Poland is turning its back on people fleeing war, persecution, and violence, undermining the EU's commitment to compassion and solidarity. They argue that refusing asylum to individuals based solely on their religion or nationality is not only discriminatory but also contradicts international human rights obligations. However, Poland's leadership remains resolute, insisting that national interest must take precedence. They argue that prioritizing the safety and security of Polish citizens is not only justified but essential, especially in light of the security concerns linked to radical Islam in other parts of Europe. For many Poles, the potential risks of social unrest, terrorism, and the erosion of cultural identity outweigh the humanitarian arguments. This debate has brought to the surface a deeper ideological divide within the European Union, one that pits the values of solidarity and open borders against the need for national sovereignty and cultural preservation. As this clash intensifies, Poland remains a central player, questioning how far Europe is willing to go in balancing compassion with self-preservation. While the country's refusal to accept Muslim refugees has made it a controversial figure within the European Union, It also highlights a growing divide over how Europe should approach the challenges of multiculturalism, national security, and sovereignty. Poland's stance on immigration is not just about its own borders. It reflects a broader skepticism across Central and Eastern Europe about the viability of the EU's open border policies. With its vocal resistance, Poland has emerged as a leading voice among countries like Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic, forming a bloc within the EU that prioritizes national sovereignty and strict immigration controls. This alliance has given rise to questions about the future of the Union itself. Can it maintain cohesion while such stark ideological differences exist between member states? At the same time, Poland's influence is likely to grow as more Europeans become disillusioned with the perceived failures of multiculturalism in Western Europe. Social unrest, terrorism, and the challenges of integrating large migrant populations have prompted many to rethink the long-standing narrative of open borders. For some, Poland's hardline stance is viewed as a necessary defense of European values and cultural identity in the face of globalization. As these tensions rise, the question remains, will Poland's vision of Europe prevail, or will it further divide the Union? What do you think? Should nations prioritize their cultural identity and national security, or should compassion and solidarity take precedence? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and join the conversation. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with others. And for more deep dives into the complex issues shaping Europe and the world, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.